Well, Jeff Burkhart, Mike Durkin, Jeff Burkhart. We really appreciate you coming on. I was lucky enough to share a cup of coffee with you at Utica Coffee a few months ago and really hear the preliminary pieces of your story, and wanted to jump on a call today and see if you would mind sharing it again for the sake of us sharing it with some other people to help make the city a little smaller and help talk about this really cool thing you have going on.
Sure. Well, about 10 years ago, I was kind of dismayed with the fact that sometimes we were getting around September and, 9/11. There really wasn't much going on that was really symbolic of what happened that day. As a firefighter, I just thought that it was a little bit, underappreciated. And I stumbled upon some stair climbs in other parts of the country. And I did some more research and, it took a couple of years to get things off the ground. Back in 2015, we actually got it off the ground running, and we basically climb in remembrance of all of the people from 9/11 that have died. And in addition to that, people that are still continuing to pass away based on their response to or recovery from what happened at the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. We focus primarily on the first responders, firefighters, police, EMS. When you have roughly 3,000 people that died that day, and we're approaching thousands now that have died post 9/11, we couldn't fit that many people in the building that we were using. It would take us the entire week to cover it. So we decided to stick with firefighters, police officers, and EMS, which in a way made sense because it put the first responder community kind of on notice that, we're going to do something to remember 9/11, and we're going to take it a step higher than what we did before with just putting a flower down or carrying a flag or something like that. So they climbed 110 stories in full fire gear or EMS gear or police gear.
Sorry to steal the spotlight. I want to share a little bit about what you're talking about, Jeff, only because I had personal experience. In 2019, a friend of mine brought it to my attention about the CNY stair climb, and I went out to participate with him. Walking up and down the stairs, there's pictures of all of the fallen firefighters. But that, to me, as I'm walking, the inquisitive part, the part that tied to my heart, wanted to stop and read every profile. But maybe you can share a little bit about those people on the stairs, Jeff.
So we try and do something every year to aid in the memorial aspect of it. It's a memorial stair climb, right? So it only stands to reason that we pay as much tribute to those individuals we possibly can. So not only are there pictures in the stairwell of all the first responders, so there's 423 first responders that we basically climb for. We take those images and we print out lanyard tags, and each climber gets 2 of them. One of them they get to keep, and one of them goes on an accountability memorial board at the end. So when we start the day, the board is basically empty. There's stuff on it, but there's blank spots. There's 423 spots on it. As people finish, they come down and they put the name, or they put the tag up there, and then they read the name, we ring a bell. There's a whole tradition that goes into it. Those images match the images of the people that are, that they're climbing for. So it's interesting because as you climb, if you're climbing for a specific person, which everybody climbs for one person, they seem to try and find that person along the way. And the interesting part is there's some pictures that are like normal office-based pictures, like if you get a company picture or something like that for your ID tag. Right. Some of the families wanted to continue to use that image. Other families actually wanted to use family images of the firefighter or the police officer actually engaged in some type of activity, like at a kid's birthday party or playing a sport or on a boat or whatever it was. So we honor their wishes because the family comes first. And like you said, the people that are climbing typically will try to find that image someplace in the stairwell.
So I think I share with you, Jeff, and Mike as well, but for the sake of the conversation we're having, we went to the 9/11 memorial in New York City recently. My daughter's 15, and it's something that she's wanted to do, and something I've wanted to do as well. I've been back to the site, but never when it was done. I kept seeing it on TV. She stood there next to it, and I took a picture of her standing next to the memorial, and there's the steel wall that runs, or the surface that runs in front of you, and in it, the names of the fallen people are carved into the steel. And without even knowing it, I took a picture with couple different names in the picture. I got back, I'm looking at the pictures, editing them a little bit, and I saw the names, and it got me Googling and searching. And so for I guess I can understand that. It's almost like you're drawn into, you want to know the story of that person, other than just what led to the end of their life and to some destruction for their family. But to I guess the part you said about the boat spoke to me as well. It's like you want to see them as the person they were, not just the occupation that they had in terms of serving other people every day.
Right. And kind of one of the neat things that we do is we try and post, a week out, who the people are climbing for, who's the fallen hero that they're climbing for. And it's amazing because they'll take that information and they'll start Googling that person's name. And next thing you know, a week before the stair climb happens, you start seeing all these images of these fallen firefighters, police officers, EMTs with an entire story profile that the people that are climbing for them are now sharing with other people. So I've made some really good friends with the 9/11 community. So the family members or survivors, the partners, the co-workers, stuff like that, of people that have, died on 9/11 and since 9/11. Because again, we have to always mention the fact that it's, 423 and counting, because there's still first responders, there's still construction workers, steel workers, hospital staff. They were down there day in, day night trying to do the recovery effort, and they're still suffering from cancer and lung diseases and stuff like that. But it's interesting because they put these stories up and they share it with their friends, and some of them will put the picture up and say, I'm leaving this picture up on my profile until after I'm done climbing.
Man, it's so cool.
Every year we try and recognize and dedicate our event to a local first responder that actually attended 9/11, and they gave their time, their energy, their effort, and their health to help other people. And we have local individuals that have since passed away because of illnesses that they sustained because they were working at the pile or in the vicinity of the trade center or whatever it was. And every year we dedicate the climb to one. Last year we dedicated it to a friend of mine who passed away from 9/11. We bring the family in. We have them lay the wreath at the opening ceremony. We print up a tag for them to hold. I usually climb for whoever it is we dedicate the climb to that year. And then that goes on the back of the board along with other local heroes that we climb for. And then we put their name on all the sleeves of the climber and the volunteer shirt, so everybody can see the name that they're honoring. So last year it was actually a coworker of mine. His name was Mike Miles. He was a fire protection specialist with the state of New York. And he spent some time down at 9/11 and ended up succumbing to the cancer that he got. And they've directly related it to his time down there.
Okay.
Now we're fortunate because we did have some of those trailblazing legacy, if you will, firefighters and police officers that really pushed the envelope and got the U.S. government to agree to long-time disability benefits for people that were in New York City at the Trade Center recovery. One of the guys that passed away, his name was Ray Pfeiffer. He was a real big guy, Engine 40 from New York City Fire Department. It's if you look up his name, he's synonymous with the 9/11 Healthcare Act, along with Lou Alvarez and Zadroga. And if you ever remember the name John Stewart, he's the one that actually walked side by side with Ray. And John Field from the Feel Good Foundation. They were real big proponents of getting this done.
Yeah. And I think Ray was he got the key to the city. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's actually in the museum at the 9/11 museum when he got issued the key to the city.
Whenever we talk to someone in a similar situation as we're doing here today, we can always tell when passion is present, right? Because all we really do is push play, and if that person's got the kind of passion that you have, they take it and run with it. So you've done a great job of that. But I want to pump the brake just a little bit.
Sure.
I love who you are that I see in front of me, but I'd like to know how you got to where you are today. You grew up around here, local guy?
Been local my whole life. I grew up here, went to school here. I went to college in Oswego, came back here, married here. Kids grew up here. Both kids graduated from local high schools. Both kids, my youngest is in MV now. My oldest graduated MV, then went to Oswego and graduated Oswego. So I live in Oriskany.
And that's where you grew up?
Yep. Grew up. Actually, I live, I can see where my house that I grew up in That's where I live now. I can look across the street and see where it was.
Oh, cool.
It's no longer there now, but local fire department, they got me involved in some stuff. You ever heard of Trinkus Manor? It was a big restaurant, motel. It was like legendary. They used to have like presidents would stop and visit there and stuff like that. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, a family purchased it out of New York City. And long story short, it ended up burning down in 1992. And I basically grew up there because my mother worked there.
As a kid, I remember very vaguely, right? I'm 44, so maybe we can do the math afterwards, but every year for Christmas, for at least the first couple years, I mean, it was always a big thing.
See the lights.
You'd go down and see the Christmas lights. It was like lights in the lake, Mike, for the Onondaga County group. And then it's still stuck in my brain, some version of a vision of those lights. And I remember it being kind of, as a kid, it was very, it was powerful.
Yep. And a lot of those lights survived, and they actually went to Rome. They actually use it around like the Rome parking garage and stuff like that.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep. So that when that burned down, I went down there and watched, because it was a neighbor. It was early in the morning. You heard the siren going, so it kept waking everybody up. So we went down, and that's when I kind of got the bug, if you will, to get into it, because it's like I didn't want somebody else to go through that, because that's where I grew up. Long story short, I ended up joining the fire department. Got me really involved in a lot of stuff, fire investigation, things of that nature, and that's where my kind of path went down, was the fire investigation route. And then ended up becoming a sheriff's deputy, and because that's what my degree was in, was forensics and criminal justice. So when I went through a little bit more, it finally got to the point where I got a job with the state of New York doing fire stuff. So now I do mostly fire training, but I still stayed in the same department back then. I've been in about 30 years, and I've been the fire chief here for going on 11 or 12 years.
We appreciate your service.
Thank you for your
It's all good.
I appreciate you taking a couple of steps back and talking about where you came from. And it's always cool to hear the story. Trinkus Manor is something I haven't heard that name in a long time, so it got me thinking a little different.
When's 2022's stair climb event?
September 10th. It's a Saturday. We usually try and do it as close to 9/11 as we can, only because a lot of people really push on the idea that we should have it close to 9/11. It's a little more difficult for us because we do get a lot of guests from New York City that come up. We try and invite firefighters and police officers that were there. So when the climbers get done, we always have somebody from either the New York City Fire Department or New York City Police Department there to shake their hand, and they get a challenge coin at the end of their climb. It's kind of the finishing of their day and their event as far as actually completing it.
Round numbers, how many people are instrumental in pulling this off annually?
It's gotten more streamlined over the years. We've allowed up to 100 volunteers at any given time for various purposes, but we also have things that go on beyond the stair climb itself. The night before, we have a get-together called an icebreaker, where we have a chicken riggy and Utica greens cook-off. Central New York, Utica, you gotta have some type of cook-off, right? So we give out a little award, we give out a trophy, and they have basically a traveling plaque that goes out, and we recognize the department who has the best greens or chicken riggies. We do that the night before with a sponsor. Usually Tito's sponsors a corner for VIPs. Woodlands Hops Farm Brewery up in Marcy there on Trenton Road. It's the old Marty's Jungle, if you're not familiar with it. They actually make a special beer just for our event. Big Papa, Gary Spears, has been huge help. He's been our DJ for that icebreaker since day one. He's been there every year, and he donates his time, along with Jeff from Vast Entertainment. He donates his services to our event every year, and it's just amazing to see the talent that they have. And then obviously the next morning we start bright and early, 5:30, getting things set up. We try and get everybody there about 7 a.m. to get their packets, get everything done. We have a moment of silence, opening ceremony, and then the first climber goes in the building with a bagpipe entrance at the moment, the same exact time that the first plane hit. So everything we do is symbolic to the timeline of 9/11.
it's very powerful.
We finish the day up, we ring the bell when they climb, they get their challenge coin, they hang their tag, they get off the stage, and we go until all the tags are hung. Typically 11:30, noon, give or take. And then what we do is we give people time to run home, take a shower and everything else, and we have a huge after party. So we call it the Brotherhood Bash. The Brotherhood Bash is typically held at Sickenburger on Barrack Street. It's a local venue. It's got outdoor place, big outdoor TV, projection screen type of thing. We've had bands in the past, live music like Showtime, Simple Props, Ridley Page, Dusty Puppies. So they've all come out and helped us out in the past, reduced prices or donated, one of the two. But when we say stair climb, they think it's just like a 2-hour window, but it's actually like a 2-day nonstop event. Sorry, sidetrack.
No, there's no,
it's great,
man. We love it. This is how we hear people's story. A normal conversation takes all sorts of corners and turns to get to you.
So if somebody was interested in doing it, whether it's to be a climber or a volunteer, we have an online sign up. We do charge for the event to be a climber. The volunteer is free, but the climber we do charge. It's like $60, but they get a t-shirt, they get the challenge coin, they get a lanyard, they get the ID sticker, they get a patch, they get they call them those string bags, basically the gym bags. They get access to the after party for free, which is usually $5, and then we get their first drink at the after party for free as well. Sickenburger pays for that, and then they also get invited to the cook-off dinner the night before with the special beer. So for $60, they're getting a lot of stuff, and they get to keep one of the tags. That's the important part. You know, we have sponsorship opportunities. So if there's local businesses out there that want to sponsor, you know, depending on whatever the sponsorship level is, will depend on what the marketing value is. So if you started like the first level, it's like $150. You get basically, you know, acknowledgement at the event on a banner along with other people that were at that level. And then in the stairwell at each floor, so each landing, we put up a sign from one of those sponsors. So every floor is sponsored by one of those people. You know, you move up to the 500 level, you start getting into bigger advertising benefits. You know, you get on the t-shirt, you get different things. When you start getting up even higher, you know, the highest we have is $2,500. We have a bunch of sponsors that do that. They usually end up on the billboards. We actually put billboards on the side of the road. So we try and get them the advertising for that. Commercials, we do TV commercials, radio commercials locally and downstate a little. When it's all said and done, we do two things. One, we always try and make the event better the following year. So if there's something that we can buy that makes the event smoother, we try and reinvest every year a little bit of money to make that easier. Yeah. And then anything that's left over goes back to a charity. They have to be a 501c3 recognized charity for us to send them money. And one of the charities that we pick every year, we always do at least 2 national charities and 2 local charities. We try and do 1 police charity and 1 fire charity each. Because then what that does is that kind of spreads it out, right? We're not the ones that are trying to keep any of this money. We didn't work for it, you know, let's give it back to somebody and do some good. So one of them is on the national level is the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial. That is the premier memorial for the United States, and it's located in Emmitsburg, Maryland, right at the National Fire Academy. And they have basically a replica of the 3 firefighters raising the flag. That's an image that's ingrained in everybody's minds. Well, right in front of it, they have 343 bricks for the guys from New York City that died on that day from the FDNY. And it just struck me as odd that there was really no place where there was a continuing thing for the people post 9/11. So we went down and we bought all the bricks to the one side of it. And now what we do is we use the money towards the National Fallen Firefighters, and we purchase a brick for all the post 9/11 firefighters that died because of their illness related to that. So we got basically 7 years into this, and we've given away a little over $100,000 to the various charities.
Good for you.
Another one we do is obviously the police memorial. That one we donate directly to putting the names of the fallen officers every year on a wall in Washington, D.C. at the police memorial. So that's another one that's near and dear to my heart. I had a buddy of mine that was actually shot and killed in front of me. And you know, that was hard. So I go down to the police memorial every year. And you know, I try and keep that going no matter what. Locally, we've given to various charities. One of the ones we've given to since day one has been the Believe 271 Foundation. It's a local charity that gives back to firefighters and their families that are suffering from cancer or debilitating illnesses. And I believe, I'd like to say there's somewhere in the area $300,000 they've given back to various firefighters to help them with their treatments and stuff like that, just in the last like 6 or 7 years. So they're doing a lot of good stuff. And the interesting part with them is that it's not just the giving back part for treatment, it's the preventive side of it. They have an educational component to actually go out there and, you know, teach firefighters how to take care of themselves, how to clean their gear, how to stay out of, you know, contaminated areas where, you know, it may be harming you in the long run. There's been some local police officers that have been shot and killed in the line of duty, so we try and donate back to those foundations. So every year is a little different.
Is that the Lindsay Foundation?
We have given to the Lindsay Foundation before. We've given to the Wyman Foundation so they actually built a park for Kurt Wyman. That was my buddy that got shot in front of me. So if you look up the Wyman Foundation, they actually have a park up there in Whitestown. So there's a bunch of them that are local. And we've given to another one the last few years, a real good friend of mine. We've gotten to be real good friends. He's a retired New York City firefighter. His name's Tim Duffy. If you look up Tim Duffy, FDNY 911, you're going to get the static image of him riding his Harley Davidson in the Ground Zero. I've become really, really good friends with him. And he used to be in the Navy. So he's very, very prone to helping out the vets. And he found out that 22 soldiers a day were committing suicide. And it was taking the U.S. government, I believe it was like 6 or 8 weeks to get vets partnered up with dogs to assist with the PTSD. And he was doing it in less than 2 weeks. So he started a charity, basically one soldier, one dog, one team. So we give to him every year now, just because we believe in his mission. And he comes up and supports us every year. He's amazing. So we've created this atmosphere where it's not just about that one day. It's about never forgetting. And when we say never forget, how many people in America on 9/12 said, never forget? So our slogan basically is never forget, never expires. Because when you said it, you didn't give it an expiration date. So it should be, you know, forever.
Never is never.
Correct. A couple of years ago, one of the interesting things that we did was we started a small scholarship for high school seniors. It was basically the year that would have marked the 18th anniversary. And what that did was the people that were graduating weren't even born when 9/11 happened. We also understand that it's a memorial. So we don't want to ever see anybody get hurt doing it. So we don't push people through. If people want to climb 3-4 stories and take a break, we have rest areas every floor so they can come out. The doors are open. You just come out, you sit in the lobby. We got chairs there. We got water. You can take a break and you get back at it.
There's popsicles being handed out by politicians.
Yep, Marianne Buttonshawn, the assemblywoman that represents this area here, does the Freezy Pops every year. She's been there pretty much from day one before she was even into politics. She just believes in the event. But you know, we don't want anybody to ever get hurt. So it's even to the point where if it gets too much for them to carry the backpack or the air pack or their gear or whatever it is, we have tags. So if they go out to the lobby, they can take it off. We tag it and we send it all the way down to the bottom so they can pick it up. You know, one of our biggest struggles we have every year is the sponsorship. Especially the last couple of years with COVID, people were really being reserved on it. But the sponsorships really help us get off the ground before all those registrations get in, because we use an online platform and we don't get that money until after the event actually happens. So we still have to pay for all the t-shirts and all that, you know, insurance and everything else that goes into it. So the sponsorships are basically what keep it alive until after we get the registration stuff in.
You talk about it so easily, but it's very impressive, the organization and the collaboration and the efforts you've made, Jeff. So happy to have someone like you in our community doing this kind of stuff.
It's all good.
I could ask you a million questions, but I'll save it for maybe as a volunteer September 10th.
Yeah, I mean, we welcome everybody, you know.
All right, well, we appreciate you taking this time. And we will definitely stay in touch as we move forward, my friend. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
It's all good. I appreciate you guys.
Nice to meet you.
You too, Mike.
Take care.
Have a great day.
Okay.